Hello and welcome to another edition of Talking Devils. I'm here today, Dave Murphy, as usual, with my co-host, former Manchester United centre-back and current Morecambe and FA Cup second round participant, Scott Wootton. Scott, how you doing this week? Good win yesterday.
Yeah, so good. Pardon?
Good win yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was a good win. Obviously, FA Cup, a distraction from the league. We haven't been doing great in the league. But yeah, take the wins as they come. We're in the half of the next round. Step closer to hopefully a third round. And yeah, you can only beat what's in front here. Obviously, the team are in the league below us, so we would expect to put on a good performance. And I mean, the conditions were awful, but we got through it and got the win. And I was nearly going to say got the 3 points there, but we got through to the next round.
And that's what it's all about at this moment in time. You know, clubs in the lower division, looking for that, third round big draw, home or away these days. It doesn't really matter. If you go away against a big club, from a club perspective, business wise, it's great business. But I do believe that clubs make a hell of a lot more money these days, home or away, than they did in previous times, especially if, you get a big club like United or Liverpool or City or Chelsea. So you guys are number 12. That's your number. I'm not sure whether you know that, but I've been looking for that in the hat for tomorrow. Hopefully you get a home draw and a nice handy one to get you into that third round, because, we want to see you back at Old Trafford. We want to see you go up against Ronaldo and Cavani, because I want to have that conversation with you after the game.
Yeah.
So for anyone that's tuned in, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. For those that have, we appreciate it. We appreciate your support. Scott, going to jump right into it. Manchester United 7, Manchester City 0. I wish. Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2. Another bad performance, and I'm trying to be polite here. Manchester United, at this moment in time, are completely rudderless, in my opinion. There doesn't seem to be a plan. There doesn't seem to be anything at all at this moment in time. If I look at the game in midweek, it was the same. It followed on. We had a brief, glimmer of hope last week against Tottenham, but Tottenham have been really bad anyway. Yesterday's game was, how do I put this? Even though the result was 3 goals less than the Liverpool game, my honest opinion is I think Manchester United, the game yesterday was more damning than it was against Liverpool. We were absolutely chasing shadows for the whole game. We really were. How did you see the game, Scott?
Yeah, it was obviously, would have been an earlier kickoff. I managed to watch the game before my own game, and I probably agree with you. I think even though the scoreline wasn't 5, and that looks awful looking from afar, but watching it, the most alarming thing for me was the gulf in quality was just like incredible. It looked like a team challenging for the league, playing against a team who were battling to stay up. And honestly, the way Man City moved the ball, like you say, the plan, they've been having that plan now. Ole's been in the job 3 years. Pep's been in it 4 or 5 years, a lot longer. But that we've seen that before at Old Trafford, how they play, how they move the ball. They all looked so in sync with each other. The way they play without a recognised striker. United 3 centre-backs didn't have anyone to mark. So there's 3 other players outnumbering the midfield or in the wide areas so much. They kept the ball for fun. Men against boys, all these sort of phrases is just exactly, they're all right. Man United didn't lay a glove on them. They didn't get close to anyone. I think obviously the early mistake from Bailly, that just sort of kills any sort of game plan. Listen, I'm sure Ole would have used the Tottenham game as sort of like a template of let's sit deep, deny City any space in behind, be narrow, be compact. I think he knew he couldn't, after Liverpool, there's no chance he could take City on toe-to-toe, not a chance. So even that in itself tells us something with the squad on paper and what the reality of it is. Then he's obviously had that game plan to go 3 at the back again, or more like a back 5, sitting deep. Bruno was playing deeper. It was like a flat 3 in midfield without the ball. Greenwood was in the team, had a bit more pace. Obviously, Cavani wasn't available, but he got a bit more pace, try and hit City on the counter attack. And when you can see, when that is your game plan, even though it's Man United, I'm sure he would have been thinking, right, let's get to half time at a minimum of 0-0. Don't concede, stay in the game for as long as possible. Man City will have all the ball, but they might get a bit edgy, even though they're the away team in the game. And we'll try and hit them on the break, frustrate them, make it horrible for them. But when you can see the goal, such a rash goal. And we were actually saying, watching the match, even though we're sort of League One players, but if them 2 goals happened in our league, you'd be getting absolutely. It shouldn't happen. Obviously everyone makes mistakes, of course, but it was such a rash own goal. And then, like I say, the whole game plan then just goes completely out the window, because naturally then you're thinking, well, we need to score to equalise. We need 2 to win the game. They don't really want to come out because they know they can't match City toe for toe. City will just pop it round them for fun. But you're 1-0 down and you're still sat behind the ball, not laying a glove on City. And it was I'd describe it as very bleak performance. Like I say, they just didn't get anywhere near. No tackles, no energy. Listen, I had to stop watching at 80 minutes to go out and warm up, but I can't even remember an half decent chance really. And that's poor, so poor.
Well, one of the statistics that came out of the game was Manchester United had more shots on David De Gea than they did on City's goalkeeper, which is kind of a damning statistic. But I want to jump back to one thing that you mentioned earlier on, which is the gulf in the teams. Manchester United, Manchester City. I want to drag Chelsea and Liverpool into this conversation as well, without being biased. On paper, Manchester United have just as good a squad as all those teams, and I would argue in some cases even better as a squad. Yesterday looked like a third round FA Cup game where it was a Premier League team playing a non-league team, and the non-league team were just hoping that they weren't going to be humiliated. That's really the way it looked to me. It was embarrassing. Like I said, on paper, and everything's great on paper, but on paper it could be argued, that Manchester United should be challenging for the league with a team like that, and it would take someone very hard pressed to disagree with that. So why the gulf in class? I mean, why does it look like we were playing Barcelona from 2011 against a non-league team yesterday? Because that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of the game at Wembley where we barely touched the ball for 90 minutes while Barcelona toyed with us like a cat and a mouse. Why is there such a vast gulf in it? Is it all down to the coaching? Because we have the players. I don't believe Ole has lost the dressing room. I think he's just that type of guy. I don't think he ever will lose the dressing room. But I think the players may become just disillusioned with what's going on. So why is there such a massive gulf in class there when toe for toe we should really be challenging?
Yeah, I think it's not all down to the coaching, but I think a large part of it is, like I said earlier, you can see City have been playing that way for years. As soon as Pep Guardiola comes in, you just know straight away he's going to play 4-3-3. He played at Barcelona with Messi up front as like a false 9, not a recognised striker, like he did yesterday. Thomas Tuchel comes in straight away, plays what he did at PSG, 3 at the back. Marquinhos played as a holding midfielder, but a middle centre back sometimes. Chelsea straight away go to a 3 at the back, 2 wingers, similar to Conte. Jurgen Klopp, first game comes in, plays 4-3-3, high press, high energy. Now they didn't get it right at the start.
Yeah.
Klopp took 3-4 years to win his first cup. Obviously got beaten in the Champions League final. Pep didn't win anything in his first season after spend nearly £200 million on fullbacks, I think it was.
Yeah.
Or he has spent £200 million on fullbacks, but that's the thing. When you think of the money United have spent over the years and the product that's on the pitch. And I think the thing for the players and the last 2 games, the Liverpool and City game especially, and like we're talking about the gulf. When you're watching the game, and like you said, it looked like a non-league team against a top team, and it could never have been Man United's plan or idea or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's idea to play really deep, 3 at the back, wing backs, 2 strikers. It couldn't have been, because You wouldn't have signed Sancho, who's a wide winger. You just wouldn't have signed if that was your plan. So it's pretty obvious that wasn't his plan. So then when you go to that as a player in the dressing room, you almost know that the staff and the manager's not really sure. He's in between. You know, they went 4-2-3-1 against Liverpool, got absolutely nowhere near them, got beat 5. You know, went to a 3 at the back because something had to change against Tottenham. Okay, that can happen sometimes, but I think it just leaves the players, you know, if the top of the, you know, in any business or company or any work of life, if the top people are a bit unsure, and you can tell that from formations and team selection, then it just leaves the group in the train. Not that they're not fighting for them or working for them, or like you said, I don't think Ollie will ever lose the dressing room. But even if it's just that 1% little bit of doubt, it's you know, it's not ideal. It's far from ideal. It's just even that 1% doubt going into a game, and you're not quite sure. You don't quite get the press right, or on the ball, you're not quite sure of certain patterns. Whereas you're playing against Man City, you just knew watching that game. Every single player, even the players on the bench, every member of the staff, they just know how they play, the system, the shape, the patterns of play. They just know it inside out. That's probably because, like I say, they've been probably getting drilled that every day for 4 or 5 years. They've had a group now that have been there together for a while. But, you know, so Man United, like you say, it's the 3rd year. They've had players who have been in and around it now for many years. We're still scratching our heads, not quite sure how they want to play. Like I say, I'm pretty sure. We spoke last week, I think, about a lot of the success was playing on the counter attack.
Yeah.
But then when you concede the early goal against Man City, you've got
it goes out the window.
Exactly where they want you, yeah. Exactly where they want you.
I want to jump onto the second goal and get your, you know, you being a centre back yourself. You said earlier on that, you know, if those 2 goals were conceded in the lower divisions, you get absolutely hammered for it. I mean, the first goal is just one of those things. I mean, we've seen old goals of that all the time. You know, he swings at it, it skies off his shin, it goes into the net. I can kind of look past that one, but I want to get back to Eric Bailly later on. But that second goal, I mean, we've got an England and Manchester United captain who completely lets the ball go over his head. We've got, you know, possibly the best left back at the Euros in Luke Shaw, who completely just leaves it, you know, which is mind-blowing in itself. And then David De Gea, I mean, you can take some of the blame off him because, again, but any goalkeeper that's beaten at the near post, I know that they really don't like that. I'm going to ask you for your professional opinion here as a centre-back. What the hell happened there?
Yeah, I think it was just so much indecision. You know, I think Maguire can get to it, but he's had if he did go for it, he'd be at a bit of a stretch. But I do think he can just head it in the first instance, and then there's no danger. So that leads on to Shaw's probably thinking Maguire's going to deal with it. So then when Maguire doesn't deal with it, it comes out. You know, these things happen so fast. He's not expecting Maguire to not go for it. So it's like, oh, shit. He's thinking Bernardo Silva's on the outside of him. Maguire's probably thinking, I know Luke Shaw's behind me, or it might run out. And the only person who really believed he was going to get on the end of it was Bernardo Silva, wasn't it? You know, and that's. I just think it's indecision, like a huge confidence thing. I think if Maguire, since he come back from his injury, hasn't looked the same player. I think if that's Maguire, 100% fit and confident, he just clears it. I think Shaw as well is confident, like you say. Scratch me head, Luke Shaw, because he seemed to turn such a huge corner from the injury last season. The Euros, he was outstanding, and then maybe it's whether he's got a hangover from that, I don't know. But I mean, I just don't get it. But going back to that incident, he's probably thinking Maguire's going to deal with it. The split second Maguire doesn't deal with it, Bernardo Silva's in. Even if from there you're thinking he shouldn't really score from there. You know, let's be honest. De Gea should save it. He certainly shouldn't pat it into his goal. If anything, he should pat it out. But it's such a poor goal. Like I say, indecision, lack of confidence to just go and deal with it yourself. Always thinking about leaving it for someone else. So poor defensively.
I mean, he didn't even hit it with a lot of power, did he? I mean, David De Gea was all over the place, and you know, David De Gea has been. Listen, for me, he's still Manchester United's number one. I think there's weaknesses to his game, but I also think there's a lot of weaknesses to Dean Henderson's game. I also believe that the only way we're going to get rid of those weaknesses in Dean Henderson's game is to play him every week. But De Gea has been pulling off some fantastic saves. He's been, you know, that Liverpool game could have been a hell of a lot more without him. Yesterday could have been a hell of a lot more, but then again, he is making mistakes. I just think that, you know, the criticism I've always had of David De Gea is that he seems to be a little bit afraid to get hurt, to get injured. He doesn't come for crosses. That ball came in at the near post where he could have collided with the post. I'm 100% confident that Dean Henderson would have saved that, because I don't think fear would have come into it. I think he would have just went all out and ran into the post if need be. I think De Gea pulls back a bit, and I've seen him do that a few times. That's my only criticism of David De Gea, is that Dean Henderson has over him, is that Henderson will come and smash everything in front of him, absolutely destroy him. That's, you know, I'm sure as a centre back, that's what you want behind you, because you know, hey, if I miss it, he's coming and he's clearing everybody, me and everyone else. Yeah. David De Gea has never been that goalkeeper. Is it, you know, De Gea has played very, very well, but he is making a lot of mistakes. I mean, midweek, you know, that goal against Atalanta, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how that went in. The mistake at the weekend, you know, I'm not a fan of switching out. There's two positions I don't really like switching out a lot. It's centre back and a goalkeeper. I think that those two positions, you should try and keep them as much as you can. Is it time for Dean Henderson to be given another chance at Manchester United?
It's a tough one, because I think before probably the Atlanta game, I think David De Gea has probably been the best player this season.
Yeah.
You know, whether that mistake in the week has affected him so much and it knocked his confidence, and he's getting sort of memories coming back of mistakes he's made in the past few years. You know, maybe it is time. Only Ole and the goalkeeping staff will know that. Dean Henderson, I'm sure, will be licking his lips now, thinking, well, if it's probably now or never, really, even though I do think David De Gea made some really good saves yesterday before that mistake. But, you know, as a centre-back and a keeper, you could play great for 99% of the game, and then that 1% means you have a bad game, even though, like I say, you may not have. So I'm sure that's a huge decision that's probably on Ole's mind at the minute, because if he did put Dean Henderson in, De Gea hasn't really got a leg to stand on the last couple of games. But yeah, listen, I'm sure it's something they're monitoring. If it was me personally, I mean, I would give De Gea another chance, possibly, just for the sheer the fact that I think it felt like he turned the corner. He'd had obviously 3 or 4 unbelievable seasons, and he had a couple of really poor seasons. I honestly genuinely feel that this season he's probably been the best player, and that says a lot about the whole team, for one. But I think I'd give him another chance, just me personally, only because I'm not that I'm not convinced by Dean Henderson, but I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen him do. He's made some mistakes as well when he's played. So it's not like he's come in and being like this colossal figure and being superb. Don't get me wrong, he's done okay, but he has also made a few mistakes as well. So just for now, I would stick with De Gea, give him 1, maybe 2 more chances, and then, like you say, you've got nothing to lose in Dean Henderson, because if De Gea keep making mistakes, then, you know, it's not. If Henderson comes in and makes, not that you want him to make mistakes, but he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, and I think you know, I'm kind of on the same thinking as well as that. You know, is that I think De Gea at this moment in time is on borrowed time. I really do. I think 1 or 2 more mistakes, and Ole doesn't have much of a choice. But he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. If he drops him for Henderson and Henderson makes a mistake, it's even more pressure. But when David De Gea joined Manchester United, like when Peter Schmeichel joined, you know, the mistakes were made throughout the first season. But as a goalkeeper, you know, you can look back at many goalkeepers and think that the only way they become even better is to get out there and make those mistakes and learn from it. That's the only thing that that pushes me for Henderson to start. And I'm a massive David De Gea fan, but the bottom line here is that we can't sustain keep sustaining these mistakes by De Gea. I mean, if a centre half scores 2 or 3 own goals, in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, he's getting dropped. It's because his confidence is gone. You made a great point there that maybe after midweek, the doubts are starting to creep into De Gea again from last season and the previous season where he was, it was blunder after blunder. And David De Gea for me is still one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but he shouldn't sit outside that thinking of, well, he can be dropped just because, and you rightly pointed out, he has been our best player, him and Ronaldo, throughout the whole season so far. That said, the only way I think we're going to get Dean Henderson up to a level that we believe he can be is to play him, and De Gea is making that decision for Ole very, a lot easier as we go on. Wayne makes a good point here. Can't see Ole if he gets a chance dropping De Gea. I think he wants to make as many major decisions as possible, or make as few major decisions as possible, and he has a few before getting to the goalkeeper. Exactly what I've just said is that De Gea, Ole, if he drops him, Henderson makes a mistake, it's 10 times worse than if he keeps De Gea in and he makes a mistake.
Absolutely, like you said, Dave, it's the one position that I'm sure the whole team just want consistency. And De Gea, I think you touched on it earlier as well, he's never really been that sort of commanding goalkeeper. So you've almost got to accept him for what he is. He's not going to change now at his age. Dean Henderson could develop and grow into a certain type of keeper. He could become that demanding keeper. But I think back of Schmeichel, Van der Sar are the two that particularly stick out. They were big. When United would dominate them, they were the goalkeepers. And De Gea is just not. That's just not in his makeup. It's not in his attributes to be that player. But like I said, it's the one position where, especially the back four, they want to know who's behind them. They don't want to see chop and change all the time. And like you just said, if he does drop De Gea, then that sort of kills him, because he'd be thinking, right, well, that's a huge call midway through the season. And then if Henderson comes in and isn't great either, then what does he do? Does he drop Henderson? Does he go back to De Gea, who he's just dropped, and his confidence will be low? And also, I think it's never a good position. The fact that we're even talking about this is not good, because also as a player, if Henderson, let's just say he sticks with De Gea now, De Gea knows he's under pressure. It's horrible feeling as a player, especially as a goalkeeper, and you're going into the game knowing, if I make a mistake here, I could be dropped. It happens as I've had stages where you're thinking, or you're going into a game thinking, I need to play unbelievably to keep me place, and and that's just not. It's not the way to go about it. So De Gea is obviously going to be thinking that, because he's getting criticised. He's made a few mistakes now, and then also if he does drop him in Henderson needs then the rest of the season. But if he makes a few mistakes and starts costing the team, then what does he do? It's a really I agree with you. I feel like it's the one position that is just so tricky, because on deciding what to go with, really.
So obviously we got a couple of weeks before the next game away to Watford. I just wanted to touch on, we spoke last week about social media and players, coming out after the game. We've had, two notable ones after the game. Harry Maguire wrote an essay, telling us how bad he feels and how we're all in this as a team. We as supporters, we don't want to hear this, I'll be honest. And this is no disrespect to, your profession, but we don't want to hear it after a defeat. We really don't. It's just one of those things that I think just adds to it. Listen, we know players care. We get it. You kind of know the players that care and the players that don't care. We've had players throughout the years that didn't care. Just stay off social media is my real, opinion on that. With Harry Maguire coming out, and like I said, he wrote a novel nearly about, how sorry he was, and I just don't think it helps. I really don't think it helps. But the most, damning one that I have is Eric Boy posts a picture of him scoring an own goal, and I sent you on the picture, and it's on mind blow. It blew my mind. I thought, well, maybe this is an intern that did this by mistake, but it wasn't taken down. I mean, Scott, I'm going to ask you, you go out next week, you score an own goal, you want to tell the fan, I know you're not on social media, but you want to tell the supporters that you're sorry. And I get players that want to say that, but there comes a point where you've got to stop doing it. You just got to stop doing it because it's only antagonizing the whole situation. Would you post a picture of you scoring an own goal? I mean, listen, everyone knows boy it's hurting. I know he feels embarrassed. He feels, oh my God, of all the teams to score an OG against, Liverpool or Man City. And then he posts a picture of it, apologizing. And I don't get it. I really don't. What's your thoughts on that actual? First of all, what's your thought? I know we talked about it last week with social media, and you said, at times it's hard because someone from the club will come and say, go say something. You're the captain. You got to say something. And they're caught between a rock and a hard place. But I think it comes a time throughout the season where you go, listen, this is doing more harm than it is good. We got to stop this. But then, Eric comes up with his second OG of the day and sticks that up there. I mean, what were your thoughts on that?
I just find it baffling. I mean, I can half get, like we spoke about last week, it's the way of the world now. Players like to engage with fans, and you see a lot of players after the defeat come out and apologies to the fans, and all the fans, don't worry, and it's almost like some players love that, and I don't personally get it, but like I said, it's the way of the world. A lot of people do it, but to post a picture of the actual you scored your own goal, I mean, even saying it just doesn't sound right, does it? It just doesn't sound right at all. I mean, like I say, maybe I don't know whether he's got a social media company who've done it for him or he's done it himself. I mean, that's another.
And sorry, that happens from time to time. We see that. I mean, we've seen during the week, Bruno Fernandes, there was a tweet put up there with I think the guy's name is Martinelli that plays for Arsenal, and there's a picture of him and two Arsenal players on the training ground hugging each other, but it was posted to Bruno Fernandes, Instagram account. It was a simple mistake because they share the same management company, and that happens. So when the boy one went up there, I thought, someone's had a brain fart here and it'll be taken down. And it wasn't. And it's still there. And it's like...
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't know. Maybe it was him. Maybe he felt that bad that he just wanted to...
Remind everyone he's got an OG in the Manchester derby.
That's what I mean. That's what I don't get. Just lay low. Stay off it. Don't even... I wouldn't even tweet anything. I just... you're going to get criticised for scoring an own goal. Yeah. Like... What would you say? Like, I don't understand it.
I don't understand what he tried to achieve.
Yeah, like Maguire, and I can kind of see maybe a tweet of listen, apologies for my performance today, or apologies for the results. Like, just a small, but to post a picture, and I can't get my head around it. I really can't.
I think Harry Maguire is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because if he doesn't say anything, people say he doesn't care. If he does post something, I'm baffled that he does post stuff like that. I really am. The way I see it is that I'd rather they said nothing, because, it's not as if they're going to come out cheering on social media after defeat. We get it. We get that they're going to try and do better, and they have to do better. You guys are professional footballers. You want to be the best. You don't go out there with the attitude of, well, it doesn't really matter, because I know it does. I know it does, and I know it hurts. At times, I wonder why, footballers on social media.
Your question there, Dave, because I'm not on Twitter, and to any of the fans listening, does it actually, after a defeat, does it change? It wouldn't change your opinion or your feeling if it comes up on your feeds of a certain player, whether you win, lose, draw, what they say about the game, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I've never got my head around it. I just, like I say, I don't get. It's difficult for me to comment on it really, because I don't see it, and I don't get. If I obviously looking for United results and supporting Man United, I don't know if Ronaldo scores and he tweets really pleased for me goal, or like you say, Maguire's coming out saying how much he's hurting. It doesn't. Do you talking on the pitch? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Or what it changes, or whether it makes the players feel better, or like I say, I know a lot of them now obviously have the social media companies and things like that. But I mean, as a fan or any fans, does it change? Does it make a difference? Does it? What happens? I just don't get it.
It doesn't. If Manchester United, at the start of the season when they won, 4-1, and Ronaldo got on the score sheet, it just kind of keeps a bit of the euphoria going for a little bit. but it doesn't really change much. And I think it has the negative effect when we get beaten and we see the players coming out. And because, in that game yesterday, I can accept a defeat when we play bad. I can, because it happens. I mean, I'm supporting this club 30-odd years. We've had some really bad nights and we've had some amazing nights. So you can accept it. That's the great thing about football, with those massive highs and depressing lows. But you still come back the following week. But what I won't accept, from a Manchester United team, especially in the Manchester derby, is lack of effort. And yesterday, for me, there was a lack of effort. Now, I know they were chasing shadows, but, you're 2-0 down, you're chasing shadows. You know what? Just go, you may not want to hear this, but just go smack somebody. Just show that you care. Show that you want to win this game. Get in with a crunch and tackle. Get the crowd going. I just feel that a lot of these players these days in the top division are so far removed from the supporters. And not just the supporters, because I get that, because when you're playing in the Premier League or being a professional footballer, to be constantly getting hounded when you're out in public, I get it. You're trying to live your own life. But there was no effort yesterday, in my opinion. There was just no effort. There was just they had given up after 45 minutes. And Wayne makes a very good point here. He says, chasing shadows, you'd have to chase. That's the point I'm trying to make. There was very little effort there. There really was. It was like they just accepted that, they were going to get beaten. And I go back to that remark where I said that it looked like it was, let's not get humiliated here like we did against Liverpool from a scoreline perspective. But I honestly believe we were even humiliated even more on that pitch yesterday, because it was clearly boys against men. And
sorry, go on.
And that's my biggest criticism of yesterday, the lack of effort. If you get beaten and you've tried your hardest, that's happened to us many, many times down the year, where you've looked at a game and gone, we couldn't have done anything more there. It's just one of those days. But yesterday we got beaten and we got humiliated, and there was no effort there. There was no one. I'm not going to say Harry Maguire shouldn't be the captain of Manchester United, but I think he could be doing more on the pitch from a vocal standpoint. I really do. He just seems too quiet for my liking.
Yeah, I think watching it and obviously reflecting on it and speaking about it now, it was almost as if like they had scars from the Liverpool game, and they probably would have thought if they really went and really tried to press and close down Man City and they just got played around, it could be a similar game. And that's, as a player, I've been there where you're playing against a team who are maybe relating to my league, who are the top of the league, and you're 2-0 down, and you probably you're not going to win the game, and there's that fear creeps in where if you really go and get after them, and they're too good for you, but we shouldn't be talking about City shouldn't be too good, even though we know they are on the basis of the performances. It just felt like there was scars from the Liverpool game where when they went to really press Liverpool, they just went 1, 2, 3 passes and all of a sudden they were in. And I think City, even more than Liverpool, could pick them off even better. And like I say, the timings of the goals are horrific, but it's hard to disagree. Looking at it, it did look like, not that they didn't care, we know they care, but just there was no real intensity. They didn't get close to anyone. They didn't even try and nick the ball. When they did nick the ball, and it pains us to say it, but I think City deserve huge credit. I mean, they played so well, even as soon as they lost the ball. When United did ever win the ball back, within 2 passes, they were just kicking it long straight back. There was no out. Ronaldo's never going to really sprint in behind now and cause City problems. So I always think it's a bit of both. I never just think it's awful from United. I'm not saying they played well one bit. They were very, very poor. But I also think Man City was so good. The way they played, they outnumbered United all over the pitch in wide areas, constantly switching the play, making United run. And Old Trafford's a big pitch, so the outside midfield play, you could see the wing backs, they didn't jump out, they didn't really come forward. And again, I believe that was a fear. It was almost like a fear from Liverpool and the success they had at Tottenham doing it. When you're 2 down in the Manchester derby at home, fans demand that you put some tackles in, like you said, smash into someone, close down, look like you're showing a bit of fight. And obviously that didn't happen. And like I say, I think the Liverpool game had a part to play in that for me.
Norwich City won their first game yesterday, and of course, what's the next thing you should do when you win your first game? You sack your manager.
Yeah, it's a real strange one. Yeah.
I think obviously that was pre-planned, and they didn't think they were going to win. Excuse me. Aston Villa had a very good season last season. Didn't start off great this season, but Dean Smith just lost his job. That's 5 managers, I believe, now that have lost their job so far. Yet Ole has kept his. Are our standards a lot lower than Norwich's and Aston Villa's at this point?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just they'd be scarred from Mourinho and Van Gaal, Moyes, and I just think that Man United historically have never been a sacking club. Ole's obviously a club legend, so he'll get more time than that. And I just think who's out there. Conte wasn't really a good fit. 3-5-2, low defensive Italian manager. Just didn't see that working at Man United. It's not the demands of the club. Zidane, I mean, he's had one job. He had the best team probably in the world. Obviously it's not that easy that you just sort of pick 11 players and they go out and win. What did he win? 3 European Cups. It was incredible, but he did have obviously a top team. And then everyone else seems to be in job. Pochettino was obviously the one that was heavily linked whilst he was just after Tottenham before Ole, a couple of years ago. So they're probably just thinking, let's just get through to the end of the season, see where we're at, try and get the new players bedded in. And, I don't see... If they lost the next few games, I think they'd have a real issue on the hands. But historically, Ole's always won a game when he's been perceived to be by the media very close to be getting sacked. And again, I go back to the previous managers, how that they didn't work. But if the board decide that Ole's no longer the right man, and maybe they already have, and they're looking at, you see it all the time. Managers get sacked, and then within a day, there's a new manager. These people are daft. They don't just. They'd look. How stupid would the Man United board be if they sacked Ole now mid-season, and then it took them a month or 2 months to appoint another manager? They'd have to put a caretaker manager in. They might already be looking now. We don't know. But like I said, there's no obvious candidate where you're out there thinking, oh yeah, he'd be good. He'd be a perfect fit. So maybe that's got a part to play. I think Norwich and Villa are probably different. Norwich are obviously more desperate to stay in the Premier League. So by getting the man out, it might just give the players a bounce and a freshness. And we've spoke loads of times. Ole would never lose the dressing room. The players aren't going to dislike him or not play for him or run for him. Obviously, there might be issues on whether it be tactics, training. We haven't got a clue about that. Only the players know. So I do feel Norwich are different. Villa, I was very surprised at because actually frustrated me, that one, because like you say, they had a really good season last year. They've lost the best player, Jack Grealish. So they were probably never going to be as good. They had a couple of players, Buendia, Bailly from Bayer Leverkusen, or Bailey. That was always going to take time to gel. And then it just shows you how fickle football is, and especially football management. I don't know what the average tenure is now for managers in jobs at the minute, but it's not long. And what a good job he done, Dean Smith.
So I mean, the names that have been thrown out there, like you said, there's no automatic choice there, because I'm not a fan of bringing in Zidane. I don't think we're gonna do much under him. I think you've hit the nail on the head. The team that he had was absolutely phenomenal. But then again, you still have to go out and win. But if you've got the best players, you have a better chance of winning, don't you? The two names that have popped up at the moment is Ten Hag from Ajax and Brendan Rodgers of Leicester. Both in jobs that they're probably quite happy with at the moment. Mm-hmm. There's strong rumours that Brendan Rodgers is kind of holding out for Manchester City, if Pep ever quits. But obviously the Manchester United job is a far bigger job than the Manchester City job any day of the week. Ten Hag with Ajax, his team is playing some beautiful football. I'm not going to buy into the fact that they've scored 50-odd goals. They're playing in the Dutch league. It's completely different. But, in the Champions League, they've already qualified. His teams play really nice attacking football. I always say in football, money talks at the end of the day. That's the way it is these days. And if Manchester United were to approach Ajax and say, hey, normally, as we know, historically, clubs don't pay for managers. They just don't. But if you go to Ajax with something like 20 million, 25 million, I could see something being done there. It all comes down to the manager at that point. Brendan Rodgers, for me, I don't know, that whole Liverpool connection, it doesn't sit right with me. But I can get past that if I'm being blatantly honest, because football nowadays is not about loyalty. It really isn't. There's only certain players or managers you would go, no, never in a million years. Like Luis Suarez come up for a free transfer at Manchester United, signed from, they burned the club down. That's a different type of scenario there. But Brendan Rodgers, managers just move from job to job, from job to job. That's just the way it is. Look at London. I mean, now Conte's at Spurs. He used to be at Chelsea. Mourinho was at Chelsea, and then he went to Spurs. There's no loyalty at all in management. And I get it 100%. Managers want to be the best. So Brendan Rodgers, Ten Hag are the names being floating around there. If Leicester go start to stumble, it wouldn't be surprising to me to see Manchester United make a move on Brendan Rodgers. What would be your general thoughts on that?
I think Brendan Rodgers is comfortably the best British manager out there at the minute by a mile. Obviously, he done a really good job at Liverpool. Came so close to winning the Premier League with them that year. Took Celtic to a new level, improved them. Okay, it's the Scottish League. They were always going to win the league with the position Rangers in, but just the performance levels they set was incredible. And then at Leicester, I mean, Leicester are never going to win the league again, because I think that was more the teams in and around them were nowhere near at such bad. They all seem to have a bad season in the same year when Leicester did win it, taking nothing away from them, of course. But I think he won the FA Cup last year, getting into Europe, and it's more just the consistency. Everyone's talking about Leicester now as a top 7 team, whereas they just weren't, and that's such a huge pat on the back for Brendan Rodgers and the job he's done, really, because I mean, his recruitment's been really good. Some of the players he's signed, the way that the team plays is attractive, good style of football. So it's just like you say, it's just a Liverpool thing. Whether the fans could turn up. Again, look at Rafa Benitez and Everton. If he wins his first 5 games at Old Trafford at the end, no one's going to talk about him ever being a Liverpool manager, are they? So fans are. Listen, we spoke before about fans being fickle, and they'll move on quick from that, I'm sure. But like you say, he's in a comfortable job there at Leicester. He's doing well. Would he be looking at Man United thinking it's one to dodge, and like you say, maybe hold out for City, looking at their squad and how they're playing? We don't know. The Ajax manager has obviously got a great record of that as well. I personally don't know an awful lot about him. Obviously, he done really, really well with Ajax a couple of seasons ago when Tottenham beat them in the semi-final. I think they beat Real Madrid. Van de Beek might actually get a game if he comes in, possibly. But yeah, I mean, if they're the 2 names, then I'm sure they. I mean, they're both obviously very credible managers in their own right, but it's different. One thing I will say though, it's completely different managing Man United and playing for Man United than it would be for playing for Leicester or Ajax. Look at Harry Maguire, for example. Van de Beek as well, for example. He was absolutely ripping it up for Ajax. He can't get a kick at the minute for Man United. So it's tough. It is really tough. So
I want to move on to Red Guitarist's question here. So, interested in your two's opinion of the lack of booing in the stadium by the fans during and after results like yesterday. Surely there has to be a stronger reaction from the fans inside the ground. If you don't mind, I want to answer this first, and then I want to move you, as a player as well. Number one, I did hear boos yesterday. And I heard them after the Liverpool game. I did hear boos at halftime. I don't get it. I'll be honest with you. I've never booed at a game, unless it was at the opposition team. I've never booed at, I don't think it brings anything to the game. I don't think I get the thought process behind it. That if the fans inside the stadium turn on the manager, it's going to put pressure on the board. I just don't. For me, it's just not my thing. I think, if a player's out there and he's playing bad, the last thing he wants to hear he's not thinking to himself, well, you know what? Did I have a good game? Did I have a bad game? Let me ask the audience. I mean, he knows he's had a bad game. I don't get booing. I know there was booing at the game yesterday. Maybe our listener here didn't hear it, but I definitely did hear it. Then again, I got the volume up at 99 because I want to wake up all my neighbours at 5 o'clock in the morning and give that match experience. I definitely heard it, but I personally don't understand it. I never got it, and I know in Spain it's a little bit different where they wave the white handkerchief and stuff like that. Maybe that's a little bit more sophisticated, but I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Scott, you played professional football all your life. Does booing make you a better player?
No, absolutely not. No, it doesn't really do anything. It's just, I think if anything, you could see it drains the team, really. No, it doesn't really affect. I don't think if anyone's off mentally strong, it doesn't really bother you. There has been times where if it's really vicious booing, you can just see the confidence of the whole team get drained. And I think you made a good point about what it often is. It's a signal to the board if the fans really unhappy. And like you say, I also heard booing yesterday. But I just get the feeling that the fans inside the stadium aren't really. It's not booing. It's more just booing out of sheer frustration. And like you said, I get why fans boo. That's their release. That's what they look forward to all week. And especially after something like yesterday, and you were saying it looked like the players didn't care. Of course, there's going to be boos. It's just that's what fans have always done and probably always will do. It's their way of venting out the frustration of what they're seeing on the pitch. But it certainly doesn't make you play better or worse or have an effect on you. It just doesn't really. I think when you're playing in that zone, it's all the noise, the songs. A lot of it's just like a small, very, very small distraction. You don't really take it all in, to be honest.
Well, if this was 15, 20 years ago, this was the only way supporters could show their disapproval to the manager. We remember that infamous or now maybe famous banner, Tara Fergie back in 89. And that's the only way the club back then and even 20 years ago would know that the fans are not happy. Now social media can easily get that vibe right away. This is why I don't even more so now understand. But I do believe that social media has split our fan base with Ollie in and Ollie out. And I think that a lot of that is driving the support inside the stadium. The support inside the stadium is the mentality, I believe, from the supporters here is that, well, we don't want to be seen as the social media crowd that just jumps on the club every time. So we're just going to hold off on booing. But it is starting to get increasingly more vocal inside the stadium. I just don't believe that the club is going to make the decision based off booing inside the stadium. And I think it has a negative effect on the players. I know you said that it doesn't make you, it doesn't all of a sudden make you go, oh, stop booing, Jesus, we better play better. But I do think it, as you said, it puts a drain on the team as well. No one wants to hear it. Who wants to go to work, in any walk of life and, you're working on a register in Tesco and the person that's putting on their groceries is booing you, and throwing stuff at you. Wayne makes a good point here. He comes up with a good old fact here. A woman once hit Dave Sexton with her shoe. I mean, who wants to be hit with a shoe, when you're at work? Nobody does. So I don't think it contributes at all. I really don't. I don't think it's going to help in any way. I don't think the club is these days makes their decisions based off what the fans inside the ground think. I think that's what we have to remember nowadays. This is all about top four finishes. That's all it's about. It's not even about winning trophies for a lot of these owners. We know that. We hate to admit it, but we know it. Their business plan is based on 1, 2, 3, or 4. If they get 1, everyone's happy at the party. If they get 2, 3, or 4, everyone's happy in the boardroom anyway. Because you're getting the same amount of money, you're getting the Champions League money. You're missing out on a couple of million from not winning the league versus finishing 4th, but that's pennies. Everything is about the top 4. I mean, David Moyes' contract, what we're led to believe, it was built in there that if he didn't finish in the top 4, he got fired. That tells you everything. That tells you everything about the business model that Manchester United have. And listen, we're not the only ones like that. Arsenal are the same. I'm sure Tottenham are the same. We got all these clubs that top four is all they care about. It's not about winning trophies. It's about getting into that top four. And earlier on, you made the point that you're not sure whether they're going to get rid of Ole, throughout the season. I'm kind of flipping back and forth on that. Gary Neville made a point today. I'm not Gary Neville's biggest fan when he talks, but Gary Neville made a very good point in that Ed Woodward doesn't want his last big decision to be that he sacked Ole before he actually rides off into the sunset. So he doesn't believe he's going to go before Woodward does, which is, I believe, is at the end of the year. I think if United get to the end of the year with Solskjaer, they're going to just stay with him because, like you said, who do they bring in? Do they put the current coaching staff in charge? That's just as big of a problem as having Ole in charge at the moment because it's one team. It's a very, very difficult thing. But you and I spoke before we come on. I'm on the air. These things go in cycles. They really do. I'm following United from the 80s to now. The 80s were terrible. A couple of FA Cup wins here. Still the aura of Manchester United's always there. The 90s, the 2000s, up until Fergie quit. They were the greatest decades for me. Now we're just going through this situation whereby, unfortunately, we're that team on the other side. But these are cycles. It'll come back. It's the greatest sport in the world. Scott, we got a couple of weeks off. I know we got the international. I've given my opinion on Ole. Do you think he's going to last those 2 weeks? Because historically, a lot of managers do get fired during that international break.
Yeah, I think he will. Yeah, definitely. Like you say, I think it's a time where clubs look at it and think if they're going to do it now. But I also think as well as if they know they're going to bring in, so to give that manager a 2-week block up until the first game to work with the team, to put them in a new shape or different training methods or whatever. But I just don't see that. I don't see it at all. I agree with the Gary Neville point where Ed Woodward he's coming for awful amounts of criticism and rightly so. In his period, he won't want to probably sack the club legend who Ole just before he leaves.
And he hired him as well, so
Yeah, exactly. So he won't want to do that. And like I said, I don't see who's out there, who's the obvious. If there was someone out, listen, I think if Pochettino had just got sacked last week off PSG, it possibly could be a different story because he seems to tick all the boxes with bringing young players through, like he did at Tottenham. Really front foot football, fast attacking. He seemed to tick a lot of the boxes that you would look at as a profile of a Man United manager and how they play and the history of the way they play football. But he's a PSG, and like I said, we spoke about the other. They're all in jobs, in good jobs. So there's no obvious candidate out there. So I see Ole taking the Watford game 100%.
Isn't it crazy? Before we finish up, isn't it crazy to think that if David Moyes hadn't have managed Manchester United, David Moyes would be mentioned as a new Manchester United manager at this moment in time?
I seen that on Instagram. I think it was last week, and it's so true, isn't it?
It is.
If he'd have done, you'd look at Everton, like you say, he raised Man United. Then he went to Real Sociedad, so he's had some experience abroad. Then he had a bit of a tough time at Sunderland. Then this is his second spell at West Ham. He kept West Ham up, didn't he? Obviously, Sunderland had been a sinking ship for years, so he took them down. But he didn't, he didn't get a lot of the blame wasn't on him for that. It was more with the owners and the direction the club had been going for many, many managers and many years. Then he kept West Ham up, and then did he have a job in between that? I think, or did he come back again to West Ham? Didn't he? And the job he's doing now, he's just beat Liverpool. He probably would be the one you're saying. Like you say, if he hadn't been at Man United, go and get him. He knows the Premier League inside out. He's managed 1,000 games. He's experienced managing a different culture in Real Sociedad. Go and get him.
Wait, did you just say he just beat Liverpool? I haven't seen the result.
Yeah, 3-2.
Well, weekend got a little bit better, just a little bit. I grew up with Liverpool fans in the 80s. As you know, I live in California, and I'm just glad I'm not living back home right now, but they still can reach me any minute of any day. And the abuse I put up with since yesterday. So my weekend's got a little bit better. My social media has got a little bit quieter today. It will be. Trust me on that. But you are right, David Moyes. We would be talking about David Moyes here. We really would. And, his contract just ended 2 years ago at Manchester United. His original one, believe it or not. They gave him 6 years. So I'm sure they still have his HR paperwork. I'm sure they still have all his little trinkets from his office, are still sitting in a cupboard somewhere. But for me, we're at this very, very difficult crossroads right now. Do we panic and get rid of Ole? And it's not so much of a panic, but panic in the fact that who do we have for the rest of the season before it makes it easier to go get a manager at the end of the season? But we're only in November here, Scott. This could get a hell of a lot worse before it gets any better. Or do we just try a new brand of going after a manager, which we haven't tried before, and that is go and pay for one. Go and get one. I know a lot of clubs don't do that, but why not break the mold?
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. I don't think money is an issue at Man United, is it? I think if they had to
I don't believe so. No.
5 million, 10 million, 15 million, it's arguably more important than a player signing. So I don't think money would get in the way of that. Like you say, I just think there'd be a lot more complications with managers who are already in jobs. So I just don't see it anytime soon. I think if there was serious threat of Man United not getting in the top 4, like you say, the board and the panic of the finances, then they might get a bit of a rush of blood and make a decision. But I don't know who they would get in as a short-term fix. I don't know, because they would have to obviously bring someone in pretty quick.
Give it to Giggsy till the end of the season. Wasn't that the saying?
Yeah, Giggsy.
I don't.
Where do you think Man United would be now if Moyes didn't get sacked? And he'd done his whole 5 years?
Probably preparing to play Morecambe next week.
Great answer.
You know what? It's a great question and it's one that's come up because there's that argument: was Moyes given enough time? Me personally, I think people have short memories. It was terrible back then. It was terrible. He didn't give them much of a choice. And the way I look at it is that maybe David Moyes is a better manager because of his 8 months at Manchester United. Maybe that's why he has taken that. Players, when they leave big clubs, can all of a sudden find form. You look at Diego Forlan as a prime example, went to Spain and won the Golden Boot for 2 or 3 years in a row. And that's when, Spanish teams were really in their pump. Hernandez, his last few seasons wasn't great, went off, had a better career, I believe, after he left United, had a couple of better seasons. Why not managers? Why not managers? Why can managers not, I remember saying this before, that Sam Allardyce, was previously a manager of a part-time team in Ireland, Limerick. He used to go door to door with a bucket collecting money to save the club. Became the manager of England, and then got, obviously we know what happened there. But Sam Allardyce became, a decent manager, made a very, very good living out, a very good career out of it. Why can't managers? And I personally believe that the 8 months that David Moyes had at Manchester United was an education for him, and I believe that clubs now are the likes of West Ham are actually benefiting from that. I just, at the time, I think it was the wrong time for Moyes. It was too. The argument could be that if David Moyes came in after, let's say, Jose or Louis van Gaal, would he have done better? I believe he would have. I really do. I just, following Fergie, it was always going to be.
You never wanted to be the one who had to follow, did you?
No.
Things happened at Arsenal.
You just, you're already onto a hiding to nothing, aren't you? You really are. You're constantly going to it was the same with, Wolf McGuinness when Sir Matt Busby resigned or retired. It was the same thing. The pressure was just too much when you have that giant shadow hanging over you. That's just the way it is. Yeah. But Scott, before we finish up, best of luck tomorrow. You guys got a good win yesterday in the FA Cup. I know your league form hasn't been the greatest, but wins are wins. You know better than anyone that breeds confidence. Breeds confidence. So hopefully tomorrow you get a nice handy draw. We'll be looking out for it. Number 12. Nice handy draw at home. We want to see you guys in the third round. We want to see you in the fourth round. We want to see you, we really want to see you guys get a Premier League team, or avoid them all and even go on a bigger run. That's the dream. But best of luck. I mean, you're in a great position now. So second round, and I know everyone's going to be. That second round is kind of the semi-final, really, isn't it, for the lower division teams, because they know we get past this, we could be playing one of the top boys, and there's nothing like the FA Cup. I say this, it's the first biggest. That's for me. It's a historical thing for me. It was the first game I've seen. So the FA Cup for me has always been up there. So best of luck in that. And are you guys playing it? I know it's international week, but I know you guys have a couple of international players. Are you playing next week?
We're supposed to play Wigan, but I think both teams have got international call-up. So we've got a Jamaican player, an Icelandic under-21 player, and a Northern Irish player. So we've got the three that you need 3 players to be able to call a game off.
Oh, okay.
And I believe Wigan have got 3 as well. So no game this weekend. So we've got a 2-week break as well. So.
Any major plans?
No, we'll be in.
I assume you guys train all the time anyway.
Yeah, so we'll be training Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we're getting a nice few days off because once we come back, there's so many games. There's a lot of games obviously in the Premier League, but we have 4 more teams, so that's 8 more league games, plus the League Cup, FA Cup. We're in the early rounds as that, so. We have. You could end up having if you get on a cup run. I think you could play over 60 games at our level. So there's an awful lot of games. So we're getting a bit of a break, and then, like I say, when we come back, it's leading up to the Christmas period, which, as we all know, is hectic. You need that little bit of a rest and a recharge to be able to get through all that. So nice few days off the weekend.
Well, I'm going to finish it up there. As I said earlier on in the show, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. We value everything. All the listeners and all the feedback. We really appreciate it. If as a Manchester United supporter, if you're out of your rut, I'd say go on to Talk of the Devils. Go on to Wayne Barton's Twitter feed, and he always posts up a very, very good, sensible and. What's the words I should be using? I'm going to try and be nice now. A different perspective to how our weekend game goes, and this week's one's is a bit of a long one. So sit yourself down, grab a beer, grab a tea, grab a coffee, whatever you want to do, and take a look at it. Talk of the Devils.co.uk, and also on Wayne S. Barton's Twitter feed. He always posts a link there. So always a good read, and always you'll definitely come away feeling a lot better and being more knowledgeable about what actually is going on at the club. So, but for everyone else, I appreciate it, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thank you.